Welcome, welcome, welcome back to Allowyne's Palace live training series. We are in the activated series. This week, we are on week 8. So we only have one more week left until we finally complete this training series on activation, equipping you to think higher, to heal effectively, and act boldly. I am thrilled that you continue to join me weekly, just learning more, being educated, gaining skills, gaining knowledge, practical insight, and just being intentional about your growth, your healing, and just you walking into all that God has for you. This week, we will be talking about stewarding the vision that God gave you. And what does that mean? How kind of do we do that? And what it requires of us. So I'm titling it today, Vision, It Requires Trust. So we're going to do a recap of what we have learned because this is an integrated experience, and I want to keep reminding you every single session of what we're learning, what we're doing, because it all abides and it's all folding into each other, and we learn through repetition. So the first week we went over identity before assignment, healing emotional wounds, renewing the mind. We talked about bold faith and how to activate that, as faith being the currency of the kingdom. We talked about spiritual discipline and what 3 disciplines are important to disciplining not only the mind, but also the body so that you can spiritually be well and strong. We talked about strategic prayer and how to structure your prayers so that they are intentional when you go before God. And last week we talked about breaking unhealthy cycles, habit formation, and all of that good stuff of what it looks like to continue to sustain all of these different areas of your identity, your healing, the renewal, activating in bold faith, activating in the disciplines, and maintaining and sustaining those things. So, we're learning some good things. This week for sure, we're going to move into stewardship, talking about what that means, talking about why we need to steward what God has given us and that nature. So we're going to go ahead and get started. So first, I want to talk about what is vision. So vision is the ability to see what God desires to do through your life before it fully exists. So it is what God has shown you, only you, I'm emphasizing you, through your life, what he wants to do through you in your life before it fully exists. So it is not just some idea or inspiration that he gives you, but it truly requires a couple of things. So the vision is not just the idea, it gives you direction on where you should be going, who you should be connecting with. It gives you purpose. So it gives you meaning, it gives you your assignment, and it gives you responsibility. So vision is something that God desires to do through you before it fully exists. So I know when a lot of people hear vision, they're like, well, why can't I see it if I can see it? Because everything starts from a thought in the mind. We have to remember that us as a creation, the world as a creation was only a thought, and God spoke and everything was made. So for us to have vision, it is something that we have the ability to see within our mind, something that God shows us. And we may not be in that just yet, but it is something that we can hope for, to have faith towards, and to slowly activate on through daily disciplines, setting boundaries, doing different little things to grow ourselves and to mature. So the vision is going to make sure that you mature emotionally, because this thing does not fully exist just yet. So we have to be able to be patient. We have to be able to wait. We have to be able to mature in that area so that we're not throwing taper tantrums or we're not getting upset and mad with God when stuff isn't happening on our time because stuff doesn't happen on our time, but it is in His perfect timing that everything will happen. And we have to be okay with that and be able to grow up to that level of knowing that, okay, it's not on my time, but it's on God's timing. Vision requires mental clarity. So it requires that we be clear on exactly what direction we're going in, what the purpose is, what exactly is our assignment, because we don't want to be doing so many things that we get off task of what God has given us to do within our time here on earth. And when you are mentally clear, you're not doubtful, you're not fearful, you're not anxious for anything, but you are bold and you are courageous in going after that thing because you know that what God showed you is coming and is to come. And vision requires that you take consistent action. So this is not something that you just build on one day. And I like to give the analogy of you cannot build a house in a day, but it takes steps and processes and tools and people and structure and foundation. You cannot build a house in one day. You cannot build the vision in one day. You cannot build it alone. A vision must be God-given. You cannot build it without the tools. So you must have the right partners. You must have the right materials. You must have the right resources in order to build that house. And you must have the right foundation as well. So God has to be at the center of that. And with that consistent action that you'll be doing is those daily disciplines. Me going daily to that house to build it. Me going daily to that house to look at the color, look at the paint, look at the bricks, doing all of those good things. Without these things, vision often stays an idea instead of becoming a reality. So without emotional maturity, without mental clarity, and without consistent action, this stays an idea. So you have to be intentional, you have to be clear, and you have to be consistent when God is giving you a vision. So why does God give us vision? Very, very good question. So God gives us vision because He desires partnership. So when He does this, He invites us to participate in the work that He is doing in the world. We have to remember that the earth belongs to Him. The earth does not belong to humans. So whatever it is that He wants to do with the earth, that is what is going to happen. And we have to submit to that. We have to come into obedience to that. And we have to know that the only way that God is going to do that is through us. So it's up to us to accept the invitation, to walk in authority, and to make sure that we are accepting the task at hand that He's given to us. So He invites us to participate in the work. He doesn't force you to participate. He will show you, but He's not going to force you to do it. So vision often appears as these couple of things. Um, you can see it as something that you deeply care about, that you're burdened by. Maybe you do not like to see people on the street homeless. Maybe you don't like to see children going hungry. Maybe you don't like to see individuals who struggle with mental health, not having access to service. Whatever it is that burdens you and you deeply care about that thing, God will typically give you a vision about that where you can operate in the earth for Him to create a solution. So it will also appear as a solution you feel called to create. So your creativity, your natural born gifting that He has already given to every single body, because if you're made in His image, you are a creator, you are creative, and you have that ability to create and to solve problems. And it often is appearing for when you have a group of people that you feel led to serve. So it's a burden that you feel deeply about. So whatever that issue is that just bothers you, that grinds your gears, You have a solution, you have creativity, you have passion about this certain thing to be able to solve it, and you feel led to serve these people. You feel led to serve your gifts, to be of service to them. Because we have to remember that we are here to serve other people. We are here to give of ourselves to other people. We can't be selfish. We can't be all about me. I don't know what type of life that would be, but that wouldn't be the life that God wants for us. So, vision, it is the ability to see what God desires to do through you before it actually exists. And then we want to make sure that the vision comes to life. It has to do that. So, vision is rarely random, but it is connected to who you are and what you have experienced. So, based on any experience that you have had, based on who you are as a person, your temperament, your mindset, your perspectives, all of those different things, your roles, your positions, all of that matters when God gives you a vision and how He's wanting to position you here in the earth. So, God gave you the vision. We understand what the vision is. We understand why He gives us the vision. Now, what does your vision require, or what does vision require? So, vision requires capacity. And what capacity means is the amount that you are able to hold or to produce. It is the maximum amount that you can contain. So, you must hold capacity within your life to hold and to produce what God is wanting to do through you in the earth so that He can get whatever He needs done here. So, do you have capacity to hold the vision? Do you have capacity to hold the solutions, the creativity, to hold all of these different things so that you are able to serve these people, so that you are able to solve these problems, and to be able to produce the solutions, to produce the impact, to produce the wealth, to produce whatever it is that He is calling you to do? So I want to touch too because I like to integrate mental health. But I see one of the biggest mental health realities about purpose is this: when it comes to vision, you can't carry what you do not have the capacity to sustain. So if you are trying to build a multi-million dollar business, a large homeless shelter in the city, if you're trying to build a large mental health agency, anything big that's going to be impactful, that's going to help people and serve them in the magnitude that you know you cannot do it on your own, you have to have the capacity to sustain it. And that means that you have to have the capacity to do that emotionally, making sure that you're regulated in yourself, because your business is only going to go as far as your ability to manage yourself and manage your emotions. You have to have that mental clarity, being clear on what is the specific objectives, what is the specific things that I am doing as a leader, as a builder, as a visionary. And you want to have healthy boundaries. So, what are the things that I'm putting in place for myself so that I know that I'm not going outside of what I can hold? I'm not going outside of what I can produce and what I am saying yes to versus what I am saying no to. And then capacity also includes those consistent habits. So all of these things are incorporated in making sure that you're able to have the capacity, you're able to do what needs to be done so that you can carry out the vision here in the earth. And the biggest thing about this is what we're talking about is stewardship, because I need to be able to produce, I need to be able to hold, but if I can't steward these things well, steward my emotions, steward my monetary finances, steward my health, steward my relationships, and having those boundaries, then my ability to carry out the vision, to make it not just an idea, but to make it reality, it becomes smaller and smaller. So stewardship essentially it means that You are managing something that is entrusted to you with care and responsibility. So you have to care about all of these aspects and be responsible for these things. So when God gives you a vision, it's going to make sure that you first care about it and then you have responsibility. So you're being held accountable for a lot of different things. So it's going to cause you to rise up higher, to have a higher perspective. We talked about that last week when we were breaking cycles and making sure that we are living in the perspective of the way that God sees us. And with this comes more responsibility. Vision requires that you take on more responsibility because it involves more people. It's not just about you anymore. And then vision, it isn't something that we just simply talk about. It is something that you cultivate over time, that you protect, and that is developed over a period of time. So God may give you the vision, but remember that you must develop capacity to carry it. So all of these things, like I said before, we don't build a house in a day, but it takes time over time. Now they're building houses real fast right now in the world. So, but the house that God wants you to build, make sure that you are building it structurally right. And when I talk about the house, I mean you being the temple and where he is dwelling. Make sure that you are building your house right so that you can have the capacity to carry out the vision. So, some common challenges that disrupt the vision. Many people lose momentum with vision because of internal patterns. So, I like to think that we are oftentimes fighting an enemy within, and that enemy within often makes us doubt, strive for perfectionism, have a fear of failure, makes us overthink, compare. And when we do these things, it causes us to not have that clarity piece that we just talked about. It causes us to not be able to regulate ourselves and to go back and forth. And it causes us to compromise what God has already declared to us. The vision is only given to you. Nobody else has to agree but you. So when you start to overthink and when you start to compare and when you start to doubt, you're essentially telling God, this isn't right. I don't trust that what you said is going to happen is for me and can happen in the earth. That's essentially what you are saying. So these patterns, they create emotional fatigue and hesitation. You mentally get stuck in these loops and these cycles, and they cause you to not be able to move forward in what God has called you to do. So, a part of stewarding is learning how to manage your inner dialogue. So, you becoming aware of, when am I doubting myself? Can I recognize that language in my internal mind? Can I recognize when I am working towards perfectionism instead of progress? Can I recognize when I am experiencing a fear of failure rather than having a perspective that this is a lesson and this can be used to help me to build momentum to keep going, to learn and to shift and to pivot? When I start to overthink, am I overanalyzing in this sense, or am I making it too complicated where God has made it very simple and very clear on what it is that I need to be doing? And when I start to compare, am I able to recognize that as well? Can I, manage myself in these areas mentally so that I can carry out the vision? So this goes into emotional stewardship. For a kingdom woman, I think that this is important because we are sometimes ruled by our emotions. And this is something that I want to emphasize in this series and making sure that we're able to heal those emotional wounds, those emotional things that may come up for us that keep us stuck and that keep us stagnant. And that keep us simply out of the authority that God has in place within us. So your emotions and they influence how you show up for your vision. So, however you are feeling in that very moment is going to influence how you show up. If you are feeling bad one day, you're not in the mood, you angry, you might be depressed, that is going to show up in how you operate in the vision that God gave you. And you have to remember that the vision is not yours, but it is God's. And He's giving it to you so that you can operate in the earth with it. So recognizing that I can't allow my emotions to move me, but I have to be aware of when my emotions are unmanaged. Because when they are unmanaged, they can lead to avoidance, they can lead to burnout, they can lead to inconsistency, and they can lead to me being discouraged overall. We don't want to leave our emotions unmanaged, but we want to make sure that we are checking them at the front door, that we are developing emotional awareness so that we can be intentional instead of reactive, so that we can be proactive in the things that we need to do to take care of ourselves so that we're not spilling over any type of doubt, any type of fear, any type of anxiety into the vision that God has called us to do. But we want to show up confident. We want to show up with authority. We want to show up trusting God in the vision. So, a gentle reminder again, your emotions are signals, not instructions. So, in order to steward this area well, we have to remember that we have to be aware and intentional so that we can show up for the vision. And next, we have discipline and consistency. So discipline, we talked about, and consistency, making sure that you are doing efforts over time. So your vision grows over time, and this is time over pressure. Time over pressure. I want to give the analogy like you are working out in the gym. You don't just build muscle on day one, but you progressively build muscle over time. The longer that you are going to the gym, the longer that you are being consistent and disciplined with your workouts, with your eating habits, with your water consumption, with your protein, all of that good things. You are being disciplined in those areas. You are being disciplined and consistent in those areas. And it's going to take time. So it's going to require that you have that emotional regulation to be patient, to be content, to find joy in the challenges that may arise, to find joy in the delay that may happen. So I do want to highlight too some mental health challenges like chronic stress, overwhelm, or lack of rest can disrupt consistency because I don't want you to think that I have to be overwhelmed about this thing, that I can't rest because I'm trying to get it done, that I can't not let it go like it has a hold on me or something. That's not, mm-mm. No. Everything from God should be given with ease. And I want you to receive that. Everything that God is giving me comes with ease. So it should not be causing you to have chronic stress because stress leads to internal things that go on in your body and medical issues. And over a long time of you being in a stressful state, you go back into that survivor mode that we talked about in the session. You go back to not being aware. You go back to being dysregulated. And we can't have that when you're operating in the vision and authority and impacting and influencing other people. So it requires that you develop healthy stewardship so that you stay disciplined and consistent and you're not overworking because we're not performing and you're not overwhelming yourself by thinking that you got to get it all done in one day. So, some key areas of healthy stewardship includes resting, reflection, things that we have already been talking about. When are you resting? When is your Sabbath day? God didn't build the earth in 7 days, but in six, and he rested on the seventh. We have to rest. That is the natural design of the body. When are you reflecting? When are you taking some time to review how did this week go? How did this month go? How did the last 3 months go? Am I reflecting on what it is that I'm inputting and what my outputs are doing for me? What structured habits do I have? So, what are my daily things that I am doing so that I can operate in this vision, so that I can be consistent? And then, am I pacing myself? Do I have a rhythm for myself where I'm not burning myself out, where I'm not feeling reluctant and burnt out and avoiding trying to get back to what it is that God told me to get to? But do I have a natural pace for myself that allows me to rest and reflect and to still get things done and to take care of me as well? So, the role of boundaries, one of the most practical ways to steward a vision is through boundaries. We talk a lot about boundaries, and boundaries are not for other people, but they are for you. And a boundary is to essentially to protect you. We talked about reframing this in another session as well as when we talked about discipline. And this goes for a boundary as well. God says boundaries for us, disciplines us as a way of protecting us. But these boundaries are going to protect your energy, your focus, your time, and your emotional well-being. So without boundaries, other people's expectations can quietly consume the space needed for your vision. Now, I want you to hear that again. Without boundaries, other people's expectations can quietly consume the space needed for your vision. When you do not have boundaries, people will run on top of you. People will demand of this from you. People will have these expectations of what you are supposed to be doing, what you have to do, what you need to do. So when you have boundaries around your energy, when you're going to rest, when you're going to lock in and focus, when you're going to take time to work out, when you're going to take time to visit friends, when you're going to take time to spend time with the kid, like whatever that time, when you're managing your time, stewarding your time, all of that is important. And then when you have the emotional well-being, maybe that's you saying, I don't have the capacity today to listen to this. I don't have the capacity to listen to someone who is being negative, who's complaining, who's gossiping. When you protect yourself in that way, then that increases your overall energy, your overall capacity for what it is that God has for you to do. So God wants us to take small, faithful steps. So going back to building a house, we don't want to build our house in one day because some things may be missing. It may break easily. It may be faulty, but we want to take small, faithful steps, small steps where we can realistically get the things done that He is asking of us. So you don't have to do it immediately. You don't have to fulfill the vision immediately. Please don't do that. Don't burn yourself out. But vision is built through small, faithful steps. So write down what it is that he is entrusting you with. Write down what it is that you have to do and break it down into small, realistic things that you can realistically do on a daily basis, on a weekly basis, on a monthly basis. And you will see and start to recognize, I can do this. It can get done. It doesn't feel like a lot. It doesn't feel too stressful. I don't want to avoid this thing, but I can do this every day or whatever days you're planning out for yourself and still have rest, still have time for me to recharge and to rest and reflect. So Luke 16:10 tells us in the beginning of that verse, whoever can be trusted with very little can also be trusted with much. So when God trusts you with this vision, when we manage these little small things that we have, you may start with a one bedroom apartment, but you have a vision to be maybe in a four-bedroom house. But can you manage the one bedroom apartment so that you can get to the four-bedroom house? He is paying attention to all of these little things. And if he is trusting you with that very little thing, we need to make sure that we are managing it, that we are caring for it, that we're being responsible for it, and showing up the best way that we can so that he can trust us with much more. Because that is a pleasure of his to continue to give to us, to continue to grow us, and to continue just to be with us. We have here too, lastly, vision and community. So the vision that God gives you to steward, it is not about you. We said this a little bit earlier, but it is for you to serve other people. And it requires that you have a healthy support system, healthy relationships, so that you can get the vision completed. It requires that you have accountability and encouragement to help sustain motivation. And no, motivation does not always carry you through. It's going to be those disciplines, it's going to be those accountability partners. It's going to be, some rough times, but all these things together, they create a system that helps you to keep going and to, push in the direction of getting that vision done. Some things that you have to watch out for too when you are stewarding the vision is making sure that you're not isolating. Isolation can often make the vision feel heavier than it is because you feel like it's just on you to get it done. When in reality, God didn't call you just to do it by yourself, but your vision is going to require other people. It's going to require other purpose partners, other tools, other resources. Going back to the house, we need these things to come together so that we can get this thing done. God is the God of unity, and when we come together, we are stronger. Remember that, the body, we look at it as one. We all had different gifts, we all had different skills, we all had different talents, but together we are stronger. Together we are made whole. So this support helps maintain emotional resilience. When you have healthy people around you to encourage you, to hold you accountable, and that can carry what you are carrying, it helps you to maintain, it helps you to sustain, it helps you to not feel alone. And it helps you to be emotionally resilient over time. And we want to make sure that we are building resilience, being able to bounce back under any type of pressure, any type of crisis, making sure that we operate in a rhythm so that we give ourselves time to recover and to get back into the flow of things. So I have some reflection questions, just three tonight. What vision has God placed on my heart to answer for you? What mental or emotional pattern might be slowing my progress? And then what small step can I take this week to move forward? So what is the vision that God has placed on your heart? What has He shown you? Only you. And then what mental or emotional pattern might be slowing down my progress? Is it a self-doubt? Is it the comparison? Is it the perfectionism? What is it that is slowing down your progress? And then what small step can you take this week? What is very small for you to move the mark, to start the momentum? So I do want to pause and offer a next step for anyone who has been joining, who is tuning in even now, um, about this next step. If you have found this series helpful, if you want to go further and deeper, more in depth on a personal level of how to renew your mind, to reclaim your identity, and to walk freely into your God-given purpose. I am launching a coaching program called Think Higher, Live Freer. It is specifically designed for women of faith, just to break mental cycles, align with God's truth, and to live with confidence and clarity. I'm excited about this because it is going to help you to operate in a way where you haven't before. It is going to help you to unlock things in your mind mentally so that you can have better perspective, so that you can be mentally resilient, and so that you can recognize any type of cycle that has been keeping you stuck, so that you can live freer, live without the weight, live without the shame, live without the insecurity, live without the fear, anxiety, anything that is stopping you. This program is geared towards helping you to do that, to create a plan, to be personalized to you, to give you the education and the tools and the accountability to go forward in all that God has called you to do. So enrollment will be opening up soon, and I'll be posting more information. But just want to offer a next step for anybody. If you have any questions, please feel free to shoot me an email, a DM. I'd love to chat with you about it if it is a fit for you. So we do have some declarations because our mouth is the activator of the kingdom of God, and we have to speak it out of our mouth so that we can create and have things come to be. So our first declaration that we have is God has entrusted me with vision. I have the capacity to steward what God has given me, and my mind is renewed. My emotions are aligned, and I move forward with faith and consistency. God has entrusted me with vision. I have the capacity to store what God has given me. My mind is renewed. My emotions are aligned, and I move forward with faith and consistency. When you say these declarations, say them with power. Say them like you believe them. Say them like they are already happening, because they are. So as we close, I want to give just a little activation here, just some reminders. But vision is not just something that you receive. Vision is something that you steward over time. So it's not just a one-time thing, but it continues to reveal itself over time, bigger over time, more clarity over time. The more that you take steps towards it, the more that you continue to take those small steps, you will continue to walk on the path that God has you on. The better you are able to be responsible, be accountable, have that discipline to be able to protect your emotional well-being, your physical well-being, your spiritual well-being, and being disciplined in those areas, having those boundaries, you will be able to have more capacity for the vision that God has given you. And when your mind, emotions, and your habits, when all of these things align with God's truth, you'll develop the capacity to carry what He has entrusted you to. So we are at the end. We have one final session next week at 7 p.m., March the 19th, called Activated and Sent, Living as an Overcomer. And this session is going to tie in every single thing that we have discussed over the last 9 weeks now. And we're going to wrap it all in a bow and take some very intentional steps into living as a overcomer. And what does that mean? And how you are going to walk away from this session, from this program, from this training series, overcoming, being activated in your mind, in your spirit, having authority, and going out and wherever you are to be confident. I appreciate you joining the live series, and I hope to see you next week.